how much of a disadvantage do you feel you are if you lose your first push without getting anything out of it?
I mean, if he's pulling SCVs to deal with your push, just snipe the SCVs. Then you do economic damage.
Right, so it's still safe. I mean, if your first push fails, it's only one ghost and one marine, right? So you're still in a good spot.
I don't see how the first push could fail. If they have a bunker, you don't push up the ramp. If they pull SCVs, you kill the SCVs with snipe and then back up, and then you've done economic damage. And if they don't pull SCVs and they don't have a bunker, you get a good return on the ghost by sniping their marines.
Yeah. So we saw in that last game how effective snipe is against marines and how good ghosts are against marines. You can quite easily kill with your 3 snipes. What was that? You got 5 marines quite easily with it?
Yeah, it's like 5 or 6 marines killed by a ghost and a marine and a couple SCVs.
So this is one last question before we start this replay. Is Solon's asking, would it be true to say that with this build that you have to make it work? You can't just move ghosts in. You have to micromanage. Is that true? I mean, I'm sure you're too good to just move, but how do you imagine this would work if you just literally moved your push?
It wouldn't work at all. It relies very heavily on snipe. It relies on positioning your units correctly. If you lose the ghost for no reason, that's really bad. And then if you're going to be using ghosts to defend against banshees, which you will if you execute the build the way I'm suggesting, you need to be able to hit your EMPs and you need to be able to stutter step move your ghosts so that you can kill the banshees before they get away.
Exactly. I'm supposing that's where that guy earlier who had his force crushed by marines, maybe, I'm imagining he must not have sniped. That's all I can think of. I can't imagine that you would lose to 4 or 5 marines with a ghost, 1 marine, and a few SCVs. But anyway, so
right.
we're gonna move. We'll move into versus Silver. Silver, obviously another Terran you should have heard of because he's very good. He's very smart, and this was the second game you played against him, right? So he knows what's going to happen, right?
Correct.
Okay, so let's do our old singy majig. Okay, so 3, 2, 1, go. So again, you're in the same positions. How does this build work? Does this build work if you're in different spots, say you're cross position or whatnot? I think it's by coincidence that you're in the same spot every time, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's most favorable, I think, in close positions because, like I mentioned before, you're trying to hit the timing window before the first factory unit pops out, and so the less time it takes for your ghost to get from your base to their base, the better.
Yeah. So in this build, we see a lot of. I like to think this is really good. It shows promise for how much micro a medevac and ghost can do, and it shows the strength of the ghost is really a really powerful unit if you use it correctly, right?
It's definitely got a lot more potential than I think people give it credit for.
So we have seen it pop up. I've obviously originally it was a lot in TVP purely because of EMP, but we've seen it in other matchups against. A few against Terrans, not very many, and also against Zergs. I mean, Snipe is very good. So, do you think the Ghost just needs a little more effort put into it before? Do you feel it's underused or?
I would say, except in TVP with EMP, it's pretty underused. Part of it is there hasn't been a lot of incentive to try and explore the Ghost more. Other builds are still working. I don't feel like anyone's really been put in a position where they feel forced to use the ghost because they're running out of options. But it's definitely something that's interesting and worth pursuing, especially because if you're that guy who has this really well executed offbeat strategy, one, people aren't going to be well practiced against it, so it'll tend to work more often, and two, you can kind of become like famous by being the guy who pioneered that build.
You can be the guy on Liquipedia who on the ghost page has got a link to your player page, right?
Right.
It's a good build. I've probably said that 1,000 times, but Silver's reaction in this game was was it a bunker rush? I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah,
here's
bunker rush. So this is the game that led me to the decision I have to be making my barracks on 12. 13 is way too late. There's no way to defend against this very adequately.
So, yeah, as you can see, you're basically holding off until your ghost is out. You know, once your ghost is here, this push is gone, but it's quite a while. It's uncomfortable.
Right. It's very hard to hold off Marines with just SCVs, particularly 3 of them like this. And if Silver had decided to send another SCV and get that bunker going, it would have been much more difficult.
So Silver's kind of known for being a smart player, so did you specifically practice with him for that reason? I mean, sort of detracting from the build slightly, how do you feel about, you know, how do you feel about a smarter player, I suppose, quote unquote? How do you feel practicing against that? I mean, who did you want to practice this build against when you first came up with it?
I really wanted to just try it against everyone. I needed to get different perspectives, whether it's the die-hard mass gaming mechanical player or the more thinky kind of person.
So, I mean, how did Silver react to this? I mean, you said Drewby didn't really like it and didn't want to play against it. What did Silver think?
I think I kind of impressed him after the 3rd game, where you can see I actually managed to win using this build against someone who's competent. And I think more than anything, people see it as kind of a strange, like a fad. Like, oh, that's kind of cute.
Yeah, so as we can see, he had a bunker defense, so you just ran away. I mean, there's no need to commit to this. And he responds... No, I can't remember what he responds with. I think he just starts going tank and siege, so... You're getting your more marauders. When is your choice to... Like, do you ever give up on ghosts completely throughout the game? I say you've got your academy, you've got the tech, but do you ever just think, no, ghosts are completely useless from now, I'm not getting any more?
I don't think there's ever really a situation where you can say, I don't need ghosts for anything. Being able to cloak and nuke an expansion is super cost efficient. It's a very attention-hungry activity for your opponent. Making them search for the nuke and minimize damage requires them to basically stop whatever else they were doing. And definitely snipe. Snipe particularly effective when combat shield isn't out, but still not too bad even against regular Marines. And ghosts do okay against Banshees. You can EMP Medivacs. Here we go. Some pretty good snipes on all those Marines. Clearing the field a little bit.
As you can see, those few snipes completely help hold off this push. I mean, obviously without a ghost there, you would have been in trouble.
Correct.
It's obviously, I mean, you don't... Well, you hold it off perfectly. I mean, maybe you lose a few units, but you can see how key the ghost is in that fight. And if I recall, you somehow come out ahead here. Did you stim? Oh, you did. I watched that before, and I thought, how the hell did that happen? But you stimmed, I saw it now. So, this is the other question. I see Silver's expanding now. Obviously, he's comfortable with his build. It's just sort of a barracks factory base build, so he knows when to expand. So, when do you expand when you start doing this ghost build? Because obviously expansion's real important, especially against players who are also expanding, obviously.
This is a bad example of when to expand and kind of the transition out of the early stages of the game. One thing that the early Marine push really threw off a lot of the timing, and we'll see in the next game, the expansion is very timely and the execution is much crisper.
So when do you think, as you play this build, obviously for very basic examples of a build, you'll know my barracks is, say like, this unit's out, I've got siege, whatever, you can safely expand behind it. When is that point in this build? When do you think you're safe enough to expand? Like, what's your key I suppose, moment.
So you definitely need to be on 2 racks and producing Marauders or Ghosts if they're going Banshees, and from that point just expand when you have money. The early Marine with the Ghost will hold off any kind of early timing attack because it's all going to involve either Marines or Marauders, and Ghosts are pretty fantastic against both. And from there, it's pretty tough for them to push out with tanks if you've got a healthy number of Marauders and a Ghost to snipe the supporting Marines.
So you go for the drops here. I mean, drops are always good. What was this decision? What do I do now? Hey, I'll drop, or was this just you?
Yeah, this is very spur of the moment because I knew I was behind at this point. I'm not sure if I actually saw his expansion, but I knew after the damage I had taken, I hadn't got enough compensation, so I needed to make something happen.
Yeah, so this was a different transition. I mean, this is the fastest starport. It's actually the only starport I think I've seen in these games so far. It's a very much fast factory, much fast starport. Was this something you practiced, or said was this spur of the moment when you thought, I need medivacs?
This was just me experimenting, trying to figure out what I should be doing out of the build, and realizing that fast starports was probably not the correct answer.
Yeah, it's I've noticed a lot of American players from what I've seen. This is not too recent, but a lot of more European players are going for the bio type play. I mean, was this what were you doing before this? Because I'm not being offensive or anything, but you seemed a bit uncomfortable with this bio play in TVT. I mean, had you had much experience with it, or?
No, I generally have been doing just fast starport and then either Banshee or Viking or Marine tank play. Also been working a little bit with the Marine Hellion timing attack thing. But I've recently started doing a bio opening. It's like a bio fast expand, which I've seen other players, Murder and Phoenix, also doing, which seems to have a good amount of potential.
So this is the point in the game at his natural where you see some cute medevac ghost tricks. So obviously you can do some great harass here while he's counter pushing you. Very effective harass unit. So had you used ghosts to harass ever before this or not? I mean,
no, not really.
It's I used to like snipe dropping, but so this is his push into your base. I mean, you've got quite a decent number of Marauders. You knew you were behind. You've got your Banshee out. You know, had in this spot, were you feeling comfortable or not at all?
I mean, I have 5 SCVs. He's got 29. It's kind of a problem.
Yeah, it's not quite fair, is it? So, like, what did you get away from this game? Obviously, to spend a bit more time thinking about how you develop a build. You came out of this, you obviously thought, I need to transition better. You know, what else did you come up with to think, I need to stop this happening?
Early racks. Get the racks on 12, not on 13. That kind of protects me a lot more against the timing attacks, and I needed to not be teching. Part of getting the early ghost means I have a response to tech units that isn't just matching the tech unit. Like, generally you tech fast because there's no good response to Banshees out of the barracks. Except ghosts are actually pretty good at that. So if you're getting an early ghost, don't waste all that money going to factory starport just so you can get Vikings to deal with Banshees. Just use the ghosts to deal with them.
So we'll see this in the next game. I was actually surprised. Were you surprised at how good ghosts are against Banshees when you started playing it?
It's actually an idea that I played around with back in beta, something I had tested, but I didn't ever find a way to make it really viable, and so I kind of ignored it, put it to the back of my mind.
We'll see it in the next game. But so one question about Banshees we received from Wiztard. Oh, that's a pleasant name. So he was saying he's not sure, but TLO played against Morrow. I'm assuming this was